Most people in America think yoga began as a peaceful stretching routine designed to relax stressed office workers, burn calories, and look good on Instagram. But the real history of yoga is far more shocking, intense, and transformative than anything happening inside modern studios today. Because yoga was never created to make your body flexible or your mind calm. It was created to completely break the limits of human consciousness. And its story begins not in luxury gyms or wellness apps, but in a brutal ancient world where survival, discipline, and spiritual rebellion defined everyday life. More than 5,000 years ago in the Indus Valley, long before modern science, psychology, or medicine existed, early yogis were already experimenting with breath control, sensory withdrawal, fasting, silence, and extreme physical stillness, not to escape stress but to confront reality itself, believing that the human mind was trapped inside illusion and that freedom could only be achieved by mastering the body, breath, and attention with almost inhuman discipline. These yogis lived in forests, caves, and isolated communities, rejecting society, wealth, comfort, and even identity, practicing techniques so demanding that many modern people would consider them dangerous or insane. Yet these practices slowly evolved into a sophisticated inner technology that was passed down orally for centuries, eventually recorded in ancient texts like the Vedas and Upanishads, where yoga was described not as exercise, but as a direct path to liberation from suffering, fear, and death. Later, around 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Patanjali systemized yoga into what we now call the Yoga Sutras, a guide so precise and psychological that modern neuroscientists still study it today. Yet what surprises most people is that physical postures what Americans now associate as yoga were barely mentioned, because traditional yoga focused primarily on ethics, self-discipline, breath mastery, concentration, and meditation, all aimed at one radical goal: dissolving the ego and awakening a higher state of awareness. For centuries, yoga remained hidden, protected, and deliberately inaccessible to the masses, because ancient teachers believed that without discipline and moral preparation, these techniques could harm the mind rather than heal it, which is why yoga was never meant to be commercial, casual, or easy. And this secretive tradition survived invasions, religious shift, colonial rule, and cultural suppression until the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when a dramatic turning point changed yoga forever. As India came under British rule, yogis began sharing their knowledge with the outside world for the first time, and charismatic figures like Swami Vivekananda introduced yoga to Western audiences, reframing it not as mysticism but as philosophy, science, and universal spirituality, which fascinated American intellectuals, scientists, and seekers who were disillusioned with materialism. However, as yoga traveled west, something fundamental began to shift, because Western culture, driven by productivity, physical fitness, and consumerism, naturally gravitated toward the visible, tangible aspects of yoga, the body, while slowly ignoring its deeper mental and spiritual foundation. And by the mid-20th century, yoga had been transformed into a physical discipline emphasizing strength, flexibility, and health, a transformation accelerated by Hollywood, celebrity endorsements, and the booming fitness industry. This is where the real surprise lies, because modern yoga, as practiced in most studios today, represents only a tiny fragment of its original purpose, stripped of its ethical framework, meditative depth, and philosophical intensity, turning what was once a path to liberation into a lifestyle product marketed for stress relief and aesthetics. Yet despite this commercialization, yoga's ancient power never fully disappeared, which is why modern science has begun rediscovering what yogis knew thousands of years ago, as studies now show that breath regulation can alter the nervous system, meditation can physically change brain structure, and sustained attention can rewire emotional patterns, confirming that yoga was always less about movement and more about mastery of awareness. Even more surprising is that many elite athletes, military units, trauma therapists, and high-performance executives are now secretly returning to yoga's original principles, not for relaxation, but for mental resilience, emotional regulation, and cognitive clarity, proving that yoga's ancient design was never outdated, only misunderstood. The real history of yoga is not a story of stretching, but a story of rebellion against human limitation, a system engineered to help ordinary people access extraordinary states of focus, insight, and inner freedom. And And the most uncomfortable truth is this: yoga never promised comfort, happiness, or positivity. It promised awareness, and awareness often begins with discomfort. In a world addicted to speed, noise, and distraction, yoga's original message feels almost dangerous because it asks people to sit still, observe themselves honestly, and dismantle the illusions they use to avoid reality, which may be why modern culture softened yoga into something safe and marketable. Yet the growing global mental health crisis suggests that something essential was lost in translation. Understanding the real history of yoga forces a deeper question of ancient humans. Without technology or modern knowledge, could map a mind with such precision? What potential still exists within us today, waiting to be accessed not through trends or products, but through discipline, awareness, and inner exploration? Yoga's journey from forest caves to American studios is not just cultural history. It is a mirror reflecting how modern society transforms powerful ideas into convenient tools, and whether yoga's deeper purpose will ever fully return depends not on traditions or teachers, but on individuals willing to go beyond poses and rediscover why yoga was created in the first place. Because the most surprising truth of all is that yoga never changed, only our expectations did.